Ramsuratkumar ki jai. Sarvam Yogi Ramsuratkumar arpanamastu. Once again, by His pure grace, we have been able to sing together despite all the activities, despite all the distractions, despite sometimes our own reluctance. Yogiji used to say, to open your eyes and close, you need God's grace. To make a movement with your little finger, you need God's grace. To breathe, certainly you need God's grace. Now, we can invoke God's grace in many ways, and varieties of people from different walks of life, with different attitudes, with different samskaras, came to Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Accordingly, his instructions would vary, but it would always finally end up in Yogi Ramsuratkumar. It's like every river is an aspect, and all the rivers mingle with the ocean. Finally, they end up in the ocean, and once they become one with the ocean, there is no difference. It's only the ocean. Now, from the ocean of grace, from the ocean of Leelas of Bhagwan, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, we shall see one or two drops to relive the experiences of the devotees by ourselves. Yesterday, we were singing, we started the session with Kanda Sashti Kavacham. For the first 20-25 minutes, we were singing only that. Many people who raised the question, why? Yesterday, the entire Tamil Nadu was doing that. So we joined. Bhagavan had prescribed this Kanda Shashti Kavacham to many people. He would specifically ask them to chant 36 times a day. In fact, he gave a specific instruction to Rajeshwari Amma. If she did not complete 36, you saw how it was yesterday. It took about 15 to 20 minutes, even for plain recital. This had to be done 36 times a day. He specifically prescribed it to some people, and he even told Rajeshwari Amma if she did not complete it the first day, the 36 times, she should do it 72 times the next day. Many, many were the benefits for the recitals. Now we shall see one or two episodes. Srimati Pankajam Das, a devotee of Bhagwan, many, many devotees know her. She is even considered as nightingale of the ashram. Her singing is beautiful, laden with bhava, and was well appreciated by Bhagwan and by devotees. She was observing this Kanda Sashti Vratam. It's a regimen. Certain regimens had to be followed for this to be taken up. She would go every year to Thiruchendur, stay there for 1 week, would observe the regimen of this Kanda Sashti. It's a regimen related to Lord Muruga. They would eat only once a day, and they would keep on chanting this recite. It's a Kavacham. Kavacham means a shield against all diseases, a shield against all ills of body and mind. So she was doing it from 1980 up to 1998, for so many years, year after year. But once in 1992, when she wrote for accommodation to the temple authorities of Thiruchendur, she got a telegram just a few days before this fasting started. It's called a Vratam, a regimen to be followed. She was very upset about it, naturally. There were just only 4 days to start Vratam, to start this fasting and recital. Her people at home said, when there is no accommodation in Thiruchendur, how could you go and stay and observe all that you have been doing? So better drop the idea. But she would not give up. For her, only Yogi Ramsuratkumar was ever the refuge. She rushed to Tiruvannamalai, to Sannadhi Street House, with the telegram. Bhagwan received her well, and looking at her, and of course, there was nothing that he did not know. He asked her if she wanted to say anything to him. And of course, she did very much. And she produced this telegram to him and said, Swami, this time when I wrote to them for accommodation, the reply has come. There is no accommodation. I don't know what to do. I've been going year after year after year now, 11 years, this is the 12th year. And then Bhagwan asked her, do you want to go? She said, yes. Okay, then he smiled, raised both his hands in the gesture of blessing and said, my father says he would give 3 VIP rooms to Pankajam. And then he looked at her and said, I have conveyed what my father said, you can go now. She said, Swami, I don't want VIP rooms and I don't want 3 of them. I want 1 ordinary room, that's all. Again he smiled and said, oh, this beggar doesn't know Pankajam. This beggar said whatever his father told him. And then she was very happy. She rushed back to her home. And of course, the people at home would not believe, they did not have faith in Bhagwan's word like her. And so they objected to her leaving without any accommodation assurance from the temple. But she would not listen to them. She just rushed to Thiruchendur, approached the temple authorities and asked who the executive officer there. They mentioned Aranganayakam. The minute she heard the name Aranganayakam, the bell rang inside, and she knew this Aranganayakam when he was the temple officer in Tanjore Kamakshi temple. And so she had hope now. And then she wrote her name and the address and sent it to this Aranganayakam. As soon as he saw that, Aranganayakam came straight to her, the executive officer, and said, Amma, you come, I'll give you accommodation. And then he took her along, he pointed to 3 VIP rooms, and he spoke exactly the same sentence which Bhagavan spoke. Here are the keys for 3 VIP rooms for you. You can choose any one of them. Of course, naturally, for her, she was wonderstruck, despite the fact that she knew that whatever Bhagavan said always came true. Again and again, she enjoyed this wonder whenever things happened the way Bhagavan blessed. And then she took liberty to ask him, because she knew this executive officer. She said, why is that? I got a reply from here that there was no accommodation. I've been coming every year. And then the officer said that he took charge only 4 days before, that he was not here when her letter came or when the reply was sent. And then she remembered. She went to see Bhagavan just 4 days before the fasting started. That was when she got the reply, and she rushed immediately to Swami, and it was just 4 days before, and she knew that the day she received blessings from Bhagavan was the day this executive officer took charge, and he spoke the same sentence as Bhagavan. Naturally, she was overjoyed. You can imagine how a devotee would feel at this time when a devotee is desperate to keep up the fasting and recital, the vrata, Kanda Sashti Kavacham. And suddenly everything went wrong and she could do nothing about it. And then these blessings came. Now she's being offered keys to choose from 3 VIP rooms, just as Bhagavan promised. Let us relive this experience, the joy that she felt at the fulfillment of her wish. There is another story. That is what really happened from Chennai. A couple, Sri Venkataraman, his wife Mukta, and their 2 children. The 4 of them came to have darshan of Bhagavan. They've been coming off and on. This was one of those times. And as soon as they were seated there, Bhagavan looked at Mukta, Venkataraman's wife, and wanted to know her name, and she said Mukta. And then he asked her, do you know the meaning of this word, Mukta? She didn't. And Bhagavan himself said, Mukta means the pearl. Many of us would be surprised because Mukta generally means liberation, moksha. But here Swami was saying the meaning is the pearl. It is true, there are 3 meanings to the word Mukta. Of course, the spiritual literature, it means liberation. In the Ayurvedic Shastra, it means pearl, calcium carbonate. That is the Shastra, the Ayurvedic branch that deals with chemical reactions with the herbs, minerals and metals. And in Dhanu Shastra, the scripture of archery, Mukta means an arrow, a weapon that is thrown in the air. So you see, Bhagwan, he knew everything. He knew all the meanings. He knew the meaning as per the Ayurvedic Shastra. And then he asked Mukta, can you recite some shlokas? Shlokas that you know. She said, I know only Kanda Sashti Kavacham. That is the recital which is considered the recital pertaining to Lord Muruga, which is generally considered as a shield against all diseases, all ills of body and mind. In Kanda Sashti Kavacham, the recital, every part of the body is mentioned, seeking God's protection for that. A beautiful composition by one Devaraya, laden with the fervor of devotion. So as soon as she said that, Bhagwan said, can you do the recital now? She said, no, I could only read it from a book. Then Bhagwan said, all right, every day, you have to read it once. You must continue doing that. And then he left them. And of course, after that, she took it up again, and then she started to recite it every day. After nearly a week of this, they got the chance to go to Kumbakonam to visit some relatives, and there, after the purpose was over, some of their relatives had booked Abhishekam for Lord Muruga in Swami Malay. Swami Malay is very near. Swami Malay is a place for Lord Muruga. The temple is famous, and it's situated very near Kumbakonam. So when their relatives were going to Swami Malay temple of Lord Muruga, they also joined them. And because they had booked for that day's Abhishekam, pouring of milk, honey and all that, vibhuti, the bhasma, the ashes. So they also joined, and they were all seated very near Garbhagriha, the sanctum sanctorum. So they could have a very nice view of this Abhishekam and puja. When everybody was chanting something or the other related to Lord Muruga, this couple could not help reciting only Yogi Ramsuratkumar Nama. So they were chanting Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Jai Guru Rai. When everyone else there had something or the other to recite. And when these ashes were being poured on the deity of Lord Muruga, suddenly Mukta exclaimed, she was highly excited, and she exclaimed to Venkataraman, see there, Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan is standing there. In the place of Lord Muruga, it is he who is receiving this Abhishekam, who is accepting, who is receiving the ashes. She was exclaiming. Venkataraman tried to see there. He was also sitting with her. He looked at the deity. He could see only Lord Muruga. But Mukta was insisting it was Yogi Ramsuratkumar with his green turban and the style of his dhoti. He is there, he's right in the place of Lord Muruga, receiving all this Abhishekam. Well, only she could see that, because she was reciting very faithfully after Bhagwan commanded her to do so every day. Just see the benefit of that. So we see here that Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Lord Muruga, there is no difference. When it was Lord Muruga receiving the Abhishekam in the Sanctum Sanctorum, Mukta could see very well Yogi Ramsuratkumar receiving it right in the place of Lord Muruga. So what does it show? And Bhagwan in Sanadi Street House, a family had visited and they were all seated before Bhagwan and they were telling Yogi Ramsuratkumar about this Kanda Sashti Kavacham. And after listening to them, Bhagwan said, okay, you can start reciting it now. They said one should do it 36 times a day. Bhagwan said, okay, you take your time. You recite all the 36 times here in front of this beggar. And he kept blessing them when they were reciting. There was a devotee by name Vishwanathan. It's not Rajaram Joshi, it is Vishwanathan who was there watching all this. And after those people left, he asked Bhagwan, Bhagwan, you have given the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar as mantra for many of us, which is very simple, easy, and works for us in our difficulties. Is it not enough to chant your name instead of all these recitals? Bhagwan nodded his head with a smile, yes. And then he said, to the extent you chant any mantra, be it Kanda Sashti Kavacham or Yogi Ramsuratkumar, to the extent you chant with sincerity, with feeling, to that extent you would be able to feel its power. The mantras are all infused with power, the power of the Deity. What matters there is our feeling. Kanda Sashti Kavacham is meant for all ills of the body and mind. And now at this point I remember suddenly a conversation between Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh and a disciple. When some people had gathered, Swami was also, Shivananda was a doctor. He used to distribute medicines. So that time he was saying, you people talk about Allopathy, Homeopathy, Naturopathy. And then he said, there is a better pathy above all this, and that is Namopathy. You chant the name of God. This Namopathy is above all other pathis, Homeopathy, Allopathy, Naturopathy. So here we have to recall that Namopathy is the best medicine for all ills of the body and mind. Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan gave this prescribed as Kanda Sashti Kavacham to Rajeshwari Amma of the Ashram also. One day he called her in 1989 and said, you start this, you have to recite this Kanda Sashti Kavacham 36 times a day, and you must continue doing it In case you are not able to do all the 36 times, you have to do 72 times the next day. Make it up. And true to that, she has been doing it for many, many years and benefited much from that. Whenever there was a problem, a health problem for anyone in the family, it helped so much. The accident or some dangerous disease, it helped so much. So, we see that how Bhagwan gave different recitals to different people in different circumstances according to their nature, according to their past karmas, etc. Now that Bhagwan who gave darshan, we all know that he had given darshan as Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, Lord Shiva, Lord Muruga, Lord Ayyappa, and he had also given darshan in the form of a cow, in the form of a calf, in the form of strangers, strange old people, on different occasions, in different forms, and in the form of butterflies more than anything else. That was his promise, that he told one Thiruchendur devotee who had to save money to come all the way, found it very difficult to come. He told her, you call out to this beggar and this beggar would come to you. Why should you come? Why should you trouble yourself to come all the way against all difficulties? Wherever you are, you just call out, this beggar would come to. This beggar would come to you in the form of a butterfly, he said. And it has become many, many, many devotees' experience today. Now this Bhagwan is here, right in front of us, with a smile on his lips. And if you go close to him, you could see his eyes focused on Brahmarandra, on the scalp, which means a deep samadhi. But at the same time, it's not a samadhi where he would be completely lost to the devotees. Because the one expression of the samadhi is compassion. Pure compassion, costless compassion. So you would see Bhagwan with his raised hand in benediction. And there's a constant flow of grace. So let's appeal our prayers to this boundless grace, the embodiment of grace and power.